Hello and welcome to this week's Chatty Corner. And it's a bit of a slow one this week, but I'm doing it anyway. I don't care. I'm not doing what I did 2 weeks ago and just going, I've got nothing to talk about. I'm not going to do one because I think I can probably figure something out. But anyway, in terms of updates, I only have one, and that is the fact that Tomb Raider has officially started this week. It should have gone up today as I record this, and yesterday as this goes up, assuming everything goes right. Yes? So let me know what you think about it so far. I mean, obviously it's just like the opening of the game. It's not much of it yet. But hopefully it'll be a good LP that will be pretty good. Yeah, that's what I'm hoping. So I hope you enjoy it. Because, yeah, I'm enjoying recording it so far. So that's good. But that's all I've really got in terms of updates. I can't really update anyone on Gravity Rush because I've already updated you on where I'm at with that, but I do have a double update this week. There is a main chapter and a challenge chapter, so there's a lot of that going on, so that's fine. That's it, really. That's it in terms of updates. In terms of your comments from last week, I only had 2 comments last week. Drawboy99 said that I'm sad that Uncharted 4 is the last game in the series, or at least so they say. It is the last game in the series. Again, I don't want to go into spoilers too much, but the ending of Uncharted 4 is pretty conclusive in terms of how the game is over. All the game. And it's, as I said in the comment I left in response, it's a good ending. As far as I felt, it was a perfect send-off for the whole series, and I'm very happy with that ending. And the whole epilogue and all that stuff, it was great. But it was also very sad finishing it, knowing that it was the end. But also I felt that it was, a fitting end, if that makes sense. So, yeah, make of that what you will. Did get a response to that as well, which said that, did you find The Last of Us 2 Easter egg in the epilogue? And apparently there is something that might be hinting at the direction that The Last of Us 2 might be going. The Last of Us 2 is kind of all but confirmed. I believe Naughty Dog have said something that they are working on it, but they're not obviously talking about it right now. My feelings about The Last of Us 2 is it better be new characters and not more stuff with Joel and Ellie, because I feel that, like Uncharted 4 had a definitive, conclusive ending that I don't feel you can follow up on, because it just ruins the impact of that ending. I feel that The Last of Us had the same thing, where just that ending, I can't see where you'd go from there. Like, if you tried to do a direct sequel to that, it would kind of ruin the impact of that ending. But that's just me, I guess. Hopefully it is different characters, and if the hint in the Uncharted 4 epilogue is anything to go by, it probably is. But we don't know. We'll see, though. We'll see where that goes. Also, Sheezy Bites did raise an interesting point about something that I didn't make particularly clear last week when I said that I wasn't going to do the Loco Roco free game on PlayStation Plus this month. He got a bit confused because he was like, but I thought you did play Loco Roco because of All Stars. I did play Loco Roco 2 for the PSP, and 1 and 2 are like the actual games, but this one that's on the PS3 is a weird one that, by their own definition, is an interactive screensaver. Yeah, I don't know how to feel about that, so I don't really want to cover it. But there will be another Ferrets First this week, probably the same day as this. Things are going well with the Ferrets First this month. That's all I'm going to say on that one. So yeah, that's pretty much everything I've got in terms of your comments last week. So we're getting through this one pretty quickly this week. We're 4 minutes in. What have I been playing? I've been playing Majora's Mask. Again, we're part of the chronological challenge. I've finished Uncharted 4 now, and we're on to Majora's Mask as part of the challenge, and I'm trying to get everything, because I have beaten that game before, and I do love Majora's Mask. I am pretty lenient on Ocarina of Time. I initially would give it a hard time and say, like, oh, it's a bit dated now, and then I went back and played it and was like, no, it isn't. Well, it is, but it's still enjoyable. It's not dated in the way that, say, Super Mario 64 is dated. I'm sticking by that opinion. I don't care. Majora's Mask is more of kind of the same, but there's obviously lots of other little things in there that make it different. And the story and the atmosphere are inherently better than Ocarina of Time. So, yeah, obviously, I imagine that many of you have played Majora's Mask, so you know exactly what I'm talking about. Although part of me is wondering if it would have been worth getting the 3DS version, because I remember reading about things that the 3DS version did that improved on the N64 version, and from what it seems like, it's things that are mildly annoying me about Majora's Mask. Nothing major. Things like when you've got to be at a specific place at a specific time to do a specific thing, the game is very, very boring when because you can only go to like 6 a.m. or 6 p.m. automatically of any day. And like the Romani Ranch quest where you have to shoot the aliens, but you've got to get to the ranch at like 2 a.m. but you can only skip time up to 6 p.m. So you've got to get to 6 p.m. and then you just stand there on the ranch waiting for 2 a.m. And yeah, that's not fun. But I've heard that the 3DS version skips a lot of that. Like you can skip to a specific time of day. If it does, then fair play. I'm not going to go out my way to get the 3DS version because, as far as I'm concerned, I've got the game in some form. But whatever. I feel like that's something that if you don't have the original, you might as well pick up the remake. But if you got the original, I don't see the point in getting the remake. That's how I always feel about these things. It's very rare that I would buy a remaster of a game that I already own. Gravity Rush is one of the exceptions, and I did that because of the LP. So that's what that was. Yeah. But yeah, Majora's Mask, I'm enjoying that. I'm enjoying playing through that again. And I'll be starting up Fur Fighters very soon, but I haven't properly started that yet. So that's a game that probably not a lot of people know about, and trying to find information on it, because I want to try and 100% that one, but trying to find information on 100%ing it is very difficult, because not a lot of people seem to have actually heard of that game. I think it had a small audience in the UK, and then not really anywhere else. It's a UK-made game, so that certainly would explain that. But, yeah, I did do an advent calendar on it once. I seem to remember doing that. It might be one of the ones I did with Bunny. And I think in that video she was like, I have no idea what this game is. And that's probably how a lot of you feel about that game as well when I talk about it. It's a third-person shooter with fuzzy animals. So, yeah. It's an interesting game. It's a silly game from what I remember. So it's always good. That's that bit. Yeah. We're 8 minutes in, and I'm on to the news, which doesn't happen very often. Last week I had Uncharted 4 to rave about, and I had the announcement of Tomb Raider, and the announcement that I was going to do an Uncharted 4 LP, which is still going to happen, don't worry. But yeah, now I've just got some news, and even then, I don't know how much insight I can give onto some of these news stories, but we'll do our best, shall we? So, I don't know if this happened by the time that I did Chatty Corner last week. I feel that it did, but for some reason I didn't put it in my news. So I'm going to talk about it now, and that is the fact that Disney Infinity has been discontinued, which is surprising, but it's also not that surprising. It's surprising because, from all outward appearances, all of these sort of game-related figure tie-in things are all doing pretty well. Like, Nintendo are raving about their sales of Amiibo for a start, and Skylanders keeps coming out with new iterations constantly and over again because people keep buying it. You know, kids are going nuts for Skylanders. It's pretty clear, and I would have thought Disney Infinity. Come on, it's Disney. It's got the whole Disney animated stuff. It's got Pixar stuff in there. It's obviously got Marvel and Star Wars, which, you know, when you got all of this in one place, you'd think automatically, oh yeah, that's gonna do amazing. Well, apparently it didn't. Apparently it hasn't been doing that well, and it's been doing so badly that Disney Interactive is just folding completely, and they're not doing any more things. Obviously, EA is still going to be doing their Star Wars games and that kind of thing. So anything that's been loaned out to another developer is still going to happen, but anything that's being done by Disney Interactive specifically is not going to happen anymore. And like I'm saying, it's surprising because like all of those things they seem to be doing really well. You'd think with the figures and everything, the kids are nuts for them. Kids go crazy for this, but maybe they're not as crazy for them as we think. I'd like to know how Lego Dimensions is doing, because that one you don't really hear about that one very much. But that one's out there, but it also just seems like the red-headed stepchild, which is interesting. What can you do? But it's also not that surprising because I never really got what Disney Infinity was. Like as a game, like Skylanders is pretty clear cut. It's like a platformer type game. It's like Spyro with all the personality stripped out of it. Yes, I went there. But so I can see the appeal there, and obviously the Amiibo stuff ties in with a range of Nintendo games. You know, it tied in with Smash Brothers, it tied in with Splatoon, it tied in with pretty much anything, but the games were forefront, and then the figures were spun off from that. And I have a load of Amiibos because I'm like that. Even though, like, Skylanders, I was going, oh, Skylanders, it's a rip-off. It's just, you know, you got to buy all these figures for a game. I should just be able to just buy the game and not have to worry about the figures. And then with Amiibo coming out, I was just like, I know I kind of want these figures. They're kind of fun. Obviously, I don't have all of them, but, you know, who does, let's be honest, with the shortages and everything. There is the Callie and Marie Amiibo coming out soon. Kind of want to get those. Because I like Splatoon, but yeah, I mean, but Disney Infinity always seemed kind of weird because, like, they always talked about it as being like toy boxes sorts, and you could kind of put figures together and play around with them in little things. I didn't really get what it was as a game. And if anyone has played it, please inform me what it actually was, and I'll sort of go into it a bit more next week about what it actually is and what I'm missing. But I never really got what it was, and I feel like maybe the market felt the same. That, you know, people got what Skylanders was, they got what Amiibo was in relation to Nintendo games, and maybe the same thing with Lego Dimensions, I don't know. Again, I don't really know anything about that one, but I get the feeling that people didn't really know what Disney Infinity was? Or maybe it's just me. I don't know. But it's kind of a shame, though, because those figures looked pretty decent quality, and I would have thought that something like that would just be printing money, but evidently it didn't. And I really hope that the developers who are going to be losing their jobs from the close down of Disney Interactive find work elsewhere very quickly. Because, yeah. It's also interesting in the news, there's another thing that's been discontinued recently, which was Project Spark, which was Microsoft's answer to user-generated content, if you will. It was kind of their Little Big Planet, or their Mario Maker, if you will. But it never really seemed to take off. I think Project Spark probably had a few issues in terms of what went wrong, why it hasn't really had the support it has. I mean, it's on the Xbox, which, for whatever reason, cutesy, fun stuff never really seems to do well on the Xbox, due to its core audience being like, oh yeah, shooters. But I would have thought there'd be some kind of audience for it somewhere. But I think as well, it got announced in the midst of Microsoft's very, very confused messages about the console itself. And I think that might have hurt it a little bit too, because I think sort of Little Big Planet and Super Mario Maker came out and they were pretty clear on what they were. But I think Project Spark was kind of vague about what it was. Like, it was clear that it was user-generated content, but it didn't really explain how it worked as a game. Like, we saw how Mario Maker worked, we saw how Little Big Planet worked, but we never really saw how Project Spark worked. And again, it was this kind of slightly vague announcement in the midst of a bunch of other vague confusing or infuriating announcements from Microsoft. This was the same time where they were about to put the DRM in. They were, planning to put the DRM in. They were heavily pushing like the TV aspect, and I think Project Spark kind of got lost in that. So people were less interested in hearing about a really experimental project like this, and I think maybe that's hurt it somewhat. I could be wrong, I don't know, but that's kind of how it feels, perhaps. And something like that is probably something that I would have played around with, in the same way that I've played around with Little Big Planet Super Mario Maker. Things like that interest me, even though once I sit down with them, I start to feel a bit overwhelmed. I'm just like, I don't know what to do now. Suddenly I have no ideas. Or I have ideas, but I have no idea how to realise them. But it's a shame. It was one of the weird ways that they were trying to bring back Conker. And, Microsoft, the way you bring back Conker is you make a new Conker game. You don't just go like, oh, we're going to put him in Project Spark, or we're going to make a VR game with him looking nothing like Conker. Stuff like that, I think. But Project Spark is a weird one. I don't really know much about it, but I do remember it getting announced, and I do remember wondering what the hell it was. So I think that probably also had an aspect to it. Next up, apparently Square Enix have announced that they have some exciting news at E3, including some exciting Tomb Raider news specifically. Now, the two things that I am expecting from this exciting Tomb Raider news is a PS4 release, which includes all the DLC that Xbox has been getting. Because as far as I'm concerned, if we got to wait a year, all that extra content that gets released over the course of the year, because there's been I think at least 2 or 3 DLC things so far, I think they need to include all that in the game as a way of saying, sorry for the wait, you get all this extra stuff. So that's one thing. My second thing is, this year is going to be the 20th anniversary of the Tomb Raider series, and I believe it's September that it came out originally, September 1996, September, October, something like that. It's like the last 4 months of the year, I know that much. And I'm really hoping that they announce some big news about something they'll do for the anniversary. I don't know what it'll be, but hopefully it'll be something like that. Now, the way that they're wording it is sort of almost like, oh, maybe there's going to be a sequel. I'm just like, it seems a bit early to announce a sequel when you haven't even finished releasing the game, the current game. There's still one system that hasn't had it yet, just so you know. But I think, because it's 1996 was when the first game came out, I have a feeling we're getting some kind of 20th anniversary celebration. I don't expect it's a game. I'm expecting it's something else. Maybe if it is a game, it's like something they've kept heavily under wraps. But if it's, I imagine it's some sort of community things. I know they're doing a concert with Tomb Raider music, which is interesting because Tomb Raider is never a series I really think of for its music. Obviously, the main Lara's theme from the first game is inherently memorable. But other than that, I don't really think of Tomb Raider for any of its music, so it's an interesting one. But that's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping for a PS4 release and some 20th anniversary celebration news of some kind, whatever that may be. Maybe it'll be some extra playable stuff in Rise of the Tomb Raider. You don't know. Releases a DLC for the Xbox One and PC, but bundled in with the PS4 version, because, it's only fair. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see what they have to say about that. Hopefully, their Square Enix's conference this year won't be yet another just PowerPoint presentation with everyone in the audience just falling asleep. Oh, and yes, here's the history of Kingdom Hearts, and we all know that you're all waiting for a new Kingdom Hearts. And here is a new Kingdom Hearts game. It's a mobile game. What? Oh, you didn't want that game? Oh, okay, here's Kingdom Hearts 3. Yeah, don't do stuff like that, Square. Let's have an actual, for all of Ubisoft's cringe-worthy stuff, at least it's watchable. It's a train wreck, but it's watchable. So yeah, we'll see what all that's about. Some interesting news, some very bizarre news actually. Pokken Tournament, the Pokemon fighting game for the Wii U, has apparently outsold Street Fighter V in the US. I'm sorry, what? Okay. That one's interesting, because obviously from what I was reading, this was based on physical sales, not digital. But according to the people who were talking about this, is that the gap is apparently so big that they really cannot see any kind of digital sales push that would close the gap. I'm like, that's interesting, because Street Fighter is, of course, on two systems. It is on the PS4 and is on the PC. Pokken is, of course, on the Wii U. And a thing to note is that the PS4 is the console with the biggest install base right now. If you add the PC into that, that's a huge install base they've got to work with. The Wii U has a very small install base in comparison, and yet has apparently done better than the game that's on the systems with the bigger install base. And that's interesting. And I can't help but feel that it's because, well, Street Fighter V was released in an unfinished state, and people probably voted with their feet. They were like, nope, when the game's done, I'll buy it. Until then, I'll wait. That probably seems to be the attitude, I reckon. I hope that is what the attitude is, because it'd be nice if we got a game launch like that and the publisher is unhappy with the sales, and then suddenly they take a look in the mirror and realise, oh, it's because we released an unfinished game, maybe we should have finished it first. Just saying. Like, I get the idea that they wanted to release it in time for things like the tournaments that they wanted to do. But my thought on that is, again, release a sort of watered down, release a cheap version that is just the multiplayer. It's something we've gone over before, but I found it interesting that it's done so badly that it's been outsold by a game exclusive to the system with the lowest install base. I mean, Pokken's good, don't get me wrong, Pokken is a good game, I like Pokken, but according to all figures, it should not have done better than Street Fighter V, you know, but maybe it's a testament to Pokken appealing to people, and Street Fighter V not being finished. Let's hope it's something like that, shall we? While we're on Nintendo, with Pokken, Nintendo made the very bizarre claim this week that they are planning to move into feature films. Obviously still doing video game stuff, but they're also going to do some feature films based on their IPs. Because that went so well with Super Mario Brothers. It went so well. Good lord. That movie. I still remember an interview with Bob Hoskins in The Guardian a few years back. Before his death, rest in peace, Bob Hoskins. Fine actor during his time. They asked him, oh, what's the worst movie you've ever done? You know, standard question. They probably ask all actors that. His response, no hesitation, was Super Mario Brothers. They later asked him, what's your biggest regret in your entire career? And he said, Super Mario Brothers, again without hesitation. And without even clarifying it, he just went Super Mario Brothers. And I think they did manage to coax some sort of reason out of him, and it's basically just like, apparently the directors were a husband and wife team who were constantly arguing. Just the story was bad, everything was bad. I also read a rumour that both the lead actors were drunk on set the whole time. So that bodes well, doesn't it? It's one of those situations where, this very fine actor, doing very good things, been a lot of really good roles, and well respected in his field. His kids see a script and they're just like, Dad, you should do that. And he's like, alright kids, I'll do it for you, because if you say that it's going to be good, then I'll take your word for it. He signed on to it, and suddenly it's a train wreck. It's sort of like Raul Julia, except his was more just, I'm going to die, so kids, my last film is going to be for you, kind of thing. So that's a bit more noble. And he, of course, got through Street Fighter by hamming it the hell up, was his plan. He obviously looked at the script, realised it was bad, and just went, you know what? I'm going to talk like this for the whole movie. And as a result, he's the best part of that movie. I love that movie. Just for him. It's the whole £5 and all that stuff. It's great. Anyway, Nintendo are thinking of making some feature films. Obviously, people are saying, like, oh, the Zelda movie would work. I agree. That would be a property that they could certainly do well as a feature film. Metroid as well, although it'd be interesting. It's based on a Nintendo property. It's an 18. Interesting. Don't see it really being an 18, but 15 probably. Yeah, because something like that, you've got to go spooky. You've got to go, like, horror. You've got to go alien with Metroid, especially because Metroid is inspired by Alien. Yeah. So I'd watch a Metroid movie if done well. But I think it might have stemmed from the fact that they did that little short with Star Fox to help promote Star Fox. And they did like the animated short. I wonder if it's something stemming off that. Be interesting to see what happens with that, because video game movies just never ever turn out well. I gave my thoughts on what I think of the Ratchet & Clank movie last week, even though I haven't seen it, but based on what I'm reading and based on what I played of the game, I can see why people don't necessarily like the Ratchet & Clank movie, which is a shame, especially because it did have Insomniac staff directly involved in it, but hopefully we don't get another Super Mario Brothers. You know, if they do a Super Mario Brothers movie, let's make sure that it actually is faithful to Super Mario Brothers, and we don't have Dennis Hopper as Bowser, just with stuff in his hair, so he's apparently a dinosaur. I don't know. I didn't get it. I don't understand what the hell was happening in that movie. It's like we've got this deadly fungus. It's like, that's not in the games. It's not The Last of Us. But, it's a weird one. It's a very weird one, and I don't know why they think it's doing feature films, especially when the one thing we know about Nintendo doing feature films is that movie. I know they weren't involved, and I believe Shigeru Miyamoto has gone on record to say that it was god-awful, or in his diplomatic Japanese kind of way of being like, well, they did their best, but you know, that kind of thing. But you know that deep down he was just going, oh, I hate that movie. It ruined everything I created. But, yeah, that's going to be interesting to see what happens out of that. And on that note, I'm done. It's a very short one this week. I'm very sorry about that. But I didn't really know what to add. But I figured you deserve a Chatty Corner every week. You know? It's nice for you to get one, I think. So, you're getting one. If there's anything you feel that I missed, let me know in the comments. Is there any comments you've got on the things I've talked about? Let me know in the comments. Let me know a bit more about Disney Infinity or Project Spark if you played either of those things, because I'd like to know a bit more about them. Obviously, they're closing down, but I'm curious. Maybe get some discussion going about what could have caused their downfall a bit more from people who've actually played those things. And yeah, any other comments you've got, let me know in the comments below. Perfect. And as always, follow me on Twitter, donate to me on Patreon if you can do so. It would be a real big help and I would be grateful for you forever. And go and watch some of my other stuff. There's Tomb Raider started this week. Gravity Rush is getting a double update this week. There's going to be a Ferrets First on teeny tiny race cars. And yeah, it's going to be a good week. So I hope you're having a good day. Hope you're having a good week. And I hope that you're doing well and that you're not sick. And on that note, I will say goodbye, au revoir, sayonara. And I'll see you around. Bye.